Hi everyone, my name's Taylor Stevenson, and for my biggest impact project, I chose to research Colin Kaepernick. Now, I know that Colin Kaepernick is someone who is still regarded as widely controversial, but there's plenty of people on this list that at one point in time were considered incredibly controversial. So that begs the question, will Colin Kaepernick still be someone that public opinion is rather divided on? Or will he one day be regarded as a hero? Let's get into it. Colin Rand Kaepernick was born on November 3rd, 1987 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He was born to a single mother who made the choice to give him up for adoption. He was adopted by Rick and Teresa Kaepernick and became the third child of their family. While Colin did struggle with some health issues early on, he was able to begin his athletic career playing football, basketball, and baseball. During high school, Kaepernick showed plenty of promise on the football field. He had always hoped that one day he would be drafted by the Green Bay Packers or the San Francisco 49ers, as they represented the two states that he grew up in. As I'm sure plenty of you know, he actually achieved that dream with the 49ers. He attended and played for the University of Nevada, Reno, where he became the fifth player in NCAA history to have 2,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards in one season. As you can see, he was on a trajectory to have a rather successful NFL career. He was picked in the second round of the 2011 draft by the San Francisco 49ers. There he was supposed to be the backup quarterback, but when Alex Smith, the starting quarterback, sustained an injury, Kaepernick joined the first string and was actually rather successful. Because of his success, he was able to sign a 6-year contract in 2014 with the 49ers. However, 2016 is when he chose to kneel for the national anthem rather than stand, which eventually led him to opt out of his contract before the 2017 season began. Moving on to the political climate. As I'm sure many of you can remember, the 2016 political climate was a rather tense one. With the upcoming election, individuals across the country, regardless of their beliefs, were incredibly nervous for the well-being of this nation. This was actually the first time that social media was playing a major role in a presidential election, which actually caused a lot of issues. This is around the same time that fake news was really big and social media was allowed fake news to spread and to go unchecked, which created even more tension and an even bigger spread of misinformation. In regards to the social climate, one of the biggest players was the Black Lives Matter movement, and they actually still happen to be one of the biggest players in our social climate today. The Black Lives Matter movement had been gaining steam since the death of Michael Brown in 2014 in Ferguson, Missouri. Racial tensions continued to grow as the number of individuals who lost their lives due to racial injustice also grew. Many Americans either met the movement with excitement and support or resistance and disgust. As I'm sure many of you can remember, there wasn't really an in-between. One topic that we've discussed in great detail this semester is politics and sport. One observation that I'm sure many of you, including myself, have made is that sport is often only criticized for being too political when it directly attacks a person's beliefs. However, individuals love sport to be political when it represents their own ideals. For instance, there are not very many people out there who are criticizing the 1980 Winter Olympics Miracle on Ice for being too political, even though it was the only shot that the United States and the Soviet Union had at fighting out their Cold War. On the other hand, when things like racism and prejudice are discussed in sport, it's widely not considered to be okay. For instance, in 2010, when LeBron James made a small comment about race potentially playing a factor in sport, many people burned his jerseys and scrutinized him for being too political. Racism is something that is deeply embedded in sport and should be talked about, but because it's such a sensitive topic, people are told to not talk about it. As I'm sure many of you are aware, Colin Kaepernick began kneeling for the flag during the 2016 NFL season. It would be really easy to consider him just another millionaire throwing a temper tantrum, but I'm encouraging you to look at it more critically than that. He did not kneel for his own benefit, but rather as a means of bringing racial injustice to light. Not only did this act of kneeling bring awareness to those who are suffering still because of the color of their skin, but he encouraged and paved the way for other athletes to join in the activism. Kaepernick's biggest impact of fighting for racial equality ended up being his biggest sacrifice. Although he had always dreamed of an NFL career, he opted out of his contract with the San Francisco 49ers in 2017. This ultimately ended his football career. He gained very little by taking a stand, but his impact continues to be far-reaching today. In 2018, Nike published an ad featuring Kaepernick that read, "Believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything." The public reaction to this made it clear that the wounds of 2016 had not healed. In response, people trashed and burned their Nike gear. Despite the widespread criticism Kaepernick received, the significance of his protest has only grown. With the increased number of deaths of people of color, especially with the events of the past year, we can start to understand what Colin Kaepernick was fighting for. He was fighting for something bigger than himself. I do think that his protests were before their time, but I am sure I am not alone in wishing that we would have listened just a little bit sooner. I would like to close with a poem by Jason Diba. We weren't mad that Trayvon's hoodie was left with a bloody stain. We weren't mad that a van kept driving with a comatose Freddie Gray. We weren't mad when Walter Scott ran for his life on our 4-inch screen, but we were mad when Kaepernick took a knee. We didn't pity Botham Jean, guilty of being home while black. We didn't mourn the slump philandro with a 4-year-old in the back. We weren't enraged for Samuel DuBose or Alton Sterling or Oscar Grant headed home after New Year's Eve, but we were mad when Kaepernick took a knee. We didn't learn about Emmett's mama and all the tears that slowly crushed her. We didn't care when the chopper hovered over the lifeless Terrence Crutcher. We didn't even pause when Ahmaud's Run was gunned down in broad daylight on Georgia Street. But we were mad when Kaepernick took a knee. We weren't moved by Eric Garner. We forgot that he couldn't breathe. We outlawed the fatal chokehold and had no outrage for his dying plea. We were too busy hating Kaepernick, hating the implicit gesture that this land wasn't a land of liberty. We were so mad, we hardly noticed George Floyd dead beneath a knee. Thank you so much for watching. This is the first part of my reference list, and this is my second. Good luck with the rest of your semester.